The moment I had envisioned my backyard sanctuary, a small, cozy hot tub for evening escapes under the stars, I never imagined it would draw a battle line with the neighborhood's HOA. A dream, simple and pure, quickly morphed into a nightmare when my plans were met with swift, authoritative disapproval from none other than Barbara "Bob" Fitzpatrick, the president of the Homeowners Association. "Hot tubs are bad for property values," she had said, her voice dripping with disdain like it was the worst crime imaginable. It wasn't just the hot tub. It was her involvement, a controlling figure armed with rules and regulations, a self-appointed guardian of every lawn's hue and every mailbox's style. My vision turned to dust that day, replaced by a fierce determination. "Fine," I muttered under my breath as I glanced out at my empty yard. "If she wants to play this game, then we'll play." A fire sparked within me. No more lukewarm baths. I was going to build something magnificent, something that would make Bob's meticulously manicured eyebrows arch in disbelief. An Olympic-sized swimming pool. The thought danced through my mind like a celebratory cheer. It wasn't just a pool. It would be a statement, a giant take that to conformist tyranny. I pored over HOA bylaws, scouring for loopholes, and to my surprise, I found none explicitly blocking the construction of such a grand structure. As long as it was a pool, it could be as big as the backyard allowed. The next step was assembling a team. I called in Bob, a local contractor known for his no-nonsense attitude. When I presented my vision, he was initially disbelieving, but slowly warmed to the idea. "I like it, it's different. We'll make it happen," he said, an unexpected glint of respect crossing his face as he took in my plans. As the excavation began, neighbors gathered, eyes wide as my serene suburban backyard transformed into a construction zone. Children laughed, dogs barked, and voices rose with curiosity, wondering just what madness was unfolding amidst the noise and dust. But in the whirlwind of excitement, I didn't forget about Bob. She wasn't pleased, not at all. Her face twisted in fury each time she marched over to interrogate me, her clipboard clutched tightly in her hands. "What are you doing?" she sputtered, her eyes burning with disdain. "A pool, Bob." I answered, a wide grin plastered across my face. "A standard swimming pool, just like HOA guidelines allow." Her eyes narrowed, but before she could retort, construction continued, a cacophony of progress echoing in my backyard. The neighborhood murmured, divided between those who saw my quest as an audacious move against Bob's reign and those who were simply bemused. Days turned into weeks, and as I stood at the edge of my newly completed pool, chest swelled with pride. Gone was my dream of a simple hot tub. In its place lay a stunning Olympic-sized swimming pool, complete with everything that made it extraordinary: starting blocks, lane dividers, and even bleachers for spectators. Yet that wasn't the cherry on top. No, I had one more outrageous twist planned. I had rigged a sound system to blare NBA cheers whenever someone dove into the pool, a playful jab at Bob, who had likened a hot tub to an unsightly catastrophe. Then, the moment of truth arrived. The HOA meeting would set the stage for my showdown with Bob. With my chest tight with adrenaline, I was ready to conquer the absurdity of the situation. My aquatic masterpiece now stood as a defiant monument against the iron grip of HOA power. As members gathered and the familiar beige walls closed in, Bob could almost taste the victory she expected to claim over my grand folly. But as I prepared to defend my aquatic rebellion, I felt a chill of anticipation sweep through me. There was something in the air tonight. If the stakes were high, then so was the thrill of plunging into this unexpected battle. With the stage set and adversaries ready, it was time for the ultimate reveal. My Olympic pool, the symbol of rebellion, would face its true test. Little did I know, the real fun was just beginning. As I sat in that crowded community center, feeling a rush of excitement and a spark of defiance, I prepared myself for battle. I had built my Olympic-sized pool not just to defy Bob Fitzpatrick, but to reclaim the right to enjoy my own property, a right that had been suffocated by her iron-fisted control. The stakes were high, and I was ready to dive in headfirst. Bob stood at the front of the room, her iron grip on the agenda palpable. She flipped through her meticulously prepared notes, her PowerPoint presentation ready to unleash a barrage of hyperbolic terror. "We cannot allow this abomination to become a permanent fixture in our neighborhood," she declared, her voice echoing against the beige walls. I could feel the tension in the room, a mixture of curiosity and concern. A few members whispered to each other, eyebrows raised, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But in that moment, I noticed something. A couple of faces were turning toward me, a hint of amusement dancing in their eyes. Perhaps they were tired of Bob's incessant control. Perhaps they were curious to see how this audacious tale would unfold. As Bob launched into her scathing diatribe against my pool, the supposed degradation of property values, the influx of undesirables, and a poetic proclamation of aesthetic ruin, I couldn't help but stifle a grin. I could see her words were falling flat, the audience seemingly disengaged from her fear-mongering theatrics. My neighbors had begun to lean in, eager to hear my side of the story. When the moment was right, I stood up, my heart pounding with anticipation. "Excuse me, everyone," I said, cutting through Bob's tirade. "I'd like to present my case." Gasps echoed through the room. Bob's eyes shot toward me, filled with indignation and disbelief. "You? Present your case," she snapped, her tone dripping with condescension. "Yes, me," I replied, meeting her gaze with newfound courage. "What I've constructed is an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a recreational facility that complies entirely with HOA guidelines." I could sense a shift in the room. A wave of intrigue rippled among my neighbors as I launched into my defense. "It's not just a pool," I clarified, causing a murmur to spread through the crowd. "It's a community asset, an opportunity for all of us. It can host swim meets, neighborhood parties, and even classes for our children. We can promote health, wellness, and connection. Isn't that what we should be supporting?" Bob's complexion paled slightly as I spoke, but she recovered quickly, preparing to swipe back. "You're being irresponsible. This will disrupt the peace and harmony of our community," she insisted, her voice wavering slightly as if grasping at straws. "Disruption?" I echoed incredulously. "Look around, Bob. This community is filled with families. The excitement of an Olympic-sized pool doesn't disrupt harmony. It cultivates it. Remember when we were kids, riding our bikes through the neighborhood? Those summer evenings spent swimming until the sun went down? This pool can bring that spirit back." It was like tossing a match into a pile of dry leaves. The energy in the room shifted, and I could see nods of agreement rising from the shadows, faces brightened by the prospect of a return to joyful community life. Just then, the unexpected thunder of footsteps caught our attention. The doors swung open, and a flood of teenagers in swim gear rushed in, accompanied by a towering coach ready to steal the spotlight. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice booming. "We're here for our practice session. Mr. Henderson kindly agreed to let us use his swimming pool." I nearly burst into laughter at Bob's expression, watching her face go from disbelief to furious defeat. The horrid whispers that filled the room echoed my sentiments perfectly. One by one, the members of the HOA began to show their true colors, leaning from their chairs, chins resting on their hands as the teenagers excitedly pawed past them. "What's this?" Bob sputtered, her composure cracking. "You can't let them use that facility." Smaking beneath my breath, I spoke first. "Actually, Bob, it is a facility, one that's legally built and open for community use. It seems the neighborhood swim team has heard about my pool, and they are thrilled to practice here." Gasps of disbelief filled the room again, many visibly enthralled by the unfolding drama. The teenagers dashed past Bob, leaving her to sputter angrily, entirely losing her grip as the energy shifted in favor of my audacious cause. I couldn't resist adding a playful push. "They're here because they are looking for a place to train, Bob. This is community spirit in action." "Mere chaos is not community spirit," she yelled, but her words barely registered as the swim team members began splashing into the pool, laughter and excitement filling the air. As their joyous whoops and cheers echoed throughout the community center, Bob's attempted reign fell to shambles around her. I couldn't help but feel a smirk tugging at my lips, watching her frustration unravel as her opponents, the members of our neighborhood, grew increasingly enamored with the spirited scene before them. "I move we allow the team to hold practice here from now on," one neighbor called out, his voice growing in strength. "I second that," another replied, enthusiasm spreading like wildfire among the crowd. Bob opened her mouth to counter, but before she could launch into another tirade, the HOA attorney interjected, his tone steady. As mentioned previously, Mr. Henderson's pool is officially legal. The previous bylaws do not apply here. Even if the HOA were to ban such pools now, as it stands, Mr. Henderson's pool is grandfathered in. Bob, realizing her power dwindled, looked rapidly between the swimming teenagers and the murmuring crowd, struggling to maintain her authority, but it was too late. The tide had turned against her, and victory swelled in my chest as the room erupted in applause. What was meant to be a meeting of condemnation had become a celebration of community, laughter echoing within the confines of that beige room. My heart raced, exhilaration coursing through my veins. As I exchanged smiles with the teammates cheering in my pool, I knew I had won more than just a petty fight against an HOA. I had sparked joy, connection, and the promise of a neighborhood reconnected by the simplicity of joyous swimming. Bob Fitzpatrick's reign was over. What remained was a chance to build something beautiful, something we could all partake in. As our eyes met, for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw her entire plan crumble to dust. Perhaps she had underestimated the power of community, the thrill of rebellion, and the echo of joyful splashes in a suburban setting. My heart soared knowing this was just the beginning. The fight to reclaim our backyard paradise had opened doors to a profound transformation, one where we could all come together, and every swing of the diving board would further cement the joy we longed for. I was ready to dive into this new chapter, where light-hearted fun would become the legacy of my once ordinary home. As the applause faded and the waves of excitement rippled through the room, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. I had not only taken a stand against the HOA, but had also unwittingly united the community in the joyful pursuit of something greater, a shared experience that brought us all together. The memory of Bob's bewildered expression as the swim team splashed into the pool would be etched in my mind forever. With the approval of the neighborhood swim team, my grand vision had taken shape, and even Bob Fitzpatrick could not deny the tide of change that was sweeping through our community. As the meeting concluded and my neighbors flooded outside to witness the spectacle, I couldn't help but dream bigger. Why stop at an Olympic pool, when we could turn this place into a true aquatic paradise? The teenagers had settled into a rhythm, diving gracefully and practicing their strokes, and laughter echoed like music against the warm summer air. That moment encapsulated everything I had set out to achieve and more. But I couldn't shake the desire to continue pushing the boundaries of what my backyard could offer. The wheels in my mind spun with possibilities. Over the next few days, as the swim team honed their skills in the shimmering waters of my pool, my grand plan began to take shape. First, I envisioned a lazy river that would wind through the yard like a gentle stream, perfect for those lazy summer afternoons spent floating along on inner tubes. Next, I dreamed of a twisting water slide that would send shrieks of joy spiraling through the air as kids raced to the finish in laughter and splashes. Finally, it was time to add a tiki bar, a colorful oasis with icy drinks and vibrant decor, ensuring that both children and adults could relax in style. Driven by my vision, I reached out to the same team of builders who had constructed the pool. Their enthusiasm for expanding my backyard dreams matched my own, and I felt the thrill of new adventure coursing through my veins. We eagerly gathered materials and discussed designs, and the project quickly transformed from a mere idea into a communal undertaking. The neighborhood buzzed with excitement as news of my plan spread. What had begun as a simple hot tub desire had blossomed into an ambitious plan for a backyard water park. Neighbors began offering to help, volunteering for everything from decorating the tiki bar to running supplies for the lazy river. It was clear that my dream of community spirit was catching fire, and I could hardly keep up with the wave of enthusiasm washing over the neighborhood. But in the shadow of this rising tide of joy loomed the ever-watchful eye of Bob Fitzpatrick. I wondered if she would attempt another push to thwart my plans. Would she try to impose new regulations to stop this aquatic revolution? The memory of her agitated expression flashed in my mind, and I steeled myself against any potential nonsense coming from the queen of HOA mayhem. As construction began on the lazy river, I could see the trepidation in Bob's eyes each time she ventured out to inspect my property. Her clipped remarks now lacked the conviction they once held. An unmistakable shift had occurred. She was no longer the unchallenged enforcer of our neighborhood. Each time she challenged my plans, my neighbors rallied behind me, almost as if a protective barrier was forming against her intimidation. One summer afternoon, while the kids splashed happily in the newly constructed lazy river and the intoxicating scent of grilled burgers wafted through the air from a neighborhood barbecue, Bob marched over in her usual horrid manner, clipboard still clenched in her grasp. This time, however, her bravado was tinged with desperation. "This is not a viable construction," she huffed, pointing her pen at the river, the water glistening with playfulness. "It clashes with the standards of our neighborhood aesthetics." I chuckled quietly, refusing to entertain her nonsense. "Actually, Bob, the lazy river is the perfect addition. It adds charm and fun, a holistic, family-friendly ambience that elevates our community." "What's charming about a glorified water feature?" she shot back, but her voice lacked the anger that once accompanied her. "You're setting a dangerous precedent." "It doesn't seem dangerous to anyone but you, Bob," I replied calmly, growing more confident. "The neighborhood is alive with excitement. You're fighting a battle that's already been lost." I gestured to the horde of families enjoying the festivities, splashes echoing like a joyful symphony, further asserting my point. All the while, I could feel eyes on us as neighbors gathered around, watching this confrontation unfold with bated breath. Her power had crumbled, and I could sense the tidal wave of support bouncing off the walls of Bob's indignation. Determination flickered in Bob's eyes as she retreated, but I sensed that the battle had merely transitioned into something more profound. Behind her simmering grievance, I saw doubt. She was no longer invincible. My actions had sparked a rebellion against her rigid tutelage. Soon after, construction on the water slide began. The structure spiraled dramatically above the ground, a thrilling work of art that would surely be the centerpiece of my water park. As the slide took shape, I envisioned laughter, competition, and the exhilarating joy it would bring to our neighborhood. As we gathered the final touches, colorful floaties, beach bowls, and decorations for the tiki bar, word spread that we would host an opening celebration for our newly expanded backyard oasis. Neighbors rallied to lend a hand, and each person brought their own enthusiasm to the moment. It would be the grand unveiling of the water park, a culmination of our efforts that showcased the power of community and collaboration. The day of the grand opening arrived, and the air buzzed with excitement. Families spilled into my backyard, eager to experience the wonder I had created. The crystal-clear waters, the inviting lazy river, and the spiraling water slide beckoned everyone to jump in and enjoy. Children squealed in delight as they zipped down the slide, and adults lounged by the tiki bar, sipping festive cocktails under the sun. Amidst the joyful noise, I caught a glimpse of Bob standing at the edge of the gathering, arms crossed tightly across her chest. But for the first time, she didn't appear angry. She looked on, a cloud of contemplation hanging over her. Perhaps she could sense the warmth and positivity radiating through our community, and even the most ardent of HOA enforcers couldn't ignore the sheer happiness enveloping our neighborhood. With every splash, every laugh, and every clink of glasses raised in celebration, I felt the strength of community enveloping me. In that moment, I wasn't just celebrating the water park. I was celebrating our small triumph over conformity, a reminder that sometimes, the most rewarding battles we fight are the ones that bring us all together. As laughter filled the air, and a sense of irrepressible joy washed over me, I couldn't help but think, perhaps there would be a time when even Bob Fitzpatrick could let go of her reign, when she could enjoy this paradise we had built together. Little did I know, that moment was closer than I could ever have imagined. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows and bathing the backyard oasis in golden light, I could see the revelry unfolding before me, a beautiful tapestry of laughter, shared stories, and newfound friendships. Neighbors who once avoided each other now splashed together, united by a common joy that transcended petty squabbles and HOA rules. My heart swelled with pride, and I reveled in the magnificent chaos that unfolded around the pool. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, transforming the sky into a breathtaking canvas of oranges and purples, I noticed that Bob Fitzpatrick lingered at the edge of the crowd, still guarded but somewhat softer, less rigid than before. What was most surprising was the warmth creeping into the atmosphere. Laughter rang out, echoing like music, and I wondered if the magic of the moment could dissolve the barriers that once seemed impenetrable. As if activated by the festive spirit that sparkled in the air, I decided it was time to take a bold step. With a drink in hand, I approached her, feeling both nervous and determined. I had invited everyone to celebrate this joyous occasion, and that included her. "Bob," I began, my voice steady. "I wanted to extend an invitation for you to join us. This backyard has always been about community, and that means you too." Her eyebrows arched in surprise, and she hesitated for a moment. "You mean, join you all in this celebration?" "Absolutely. Come enjoy this moment with us." I smiled, gesturing to the jubilant crowd splashing in the pool and laughing at the tiki bar. It's all about letting go, enjoying the summer, and embracing connection. I think you'd find it refreshing. It took her a moment to respond, her hesitance evident. The walls she had built around herself were crumbling, and I could see the flicker of curiosity mixed with uncertainty. Finally, she sighed and relented. "Fine, but only for a moment," she said, her tone a blend of reluctant acceptance and tentative intrigue. I led her into the heart of the celebration, where the sounds of joy swirled around us. The laughter grew louder as I introduced Bob to my neighbors, each one welcoming her with a mix of warmth and surprise. I watched as she slowly shed her defensiveness, breaking bread with those she had once called troublemakers. We shared stories. There was still an air of caution about her, but she began to chuckle at the antics of the swim team with a glimmer of approval. Children splashed around her, tugging at her sleeves, urging her to join a game of water tag. For a brief moment, I thought I caught the hint of a smile creeping on her lips as she declined, still playing it cool but softening. The night grew darker, and twinkling lights illuminated our backyard as laughter danced alongside fireflies that flitted about in the warm summer air. The mood was infectious, and I felt the weight of the past begin to lift. It was liberating, as if the water park had not just transformed the space, but reshaped the very fabric of our community into something more united and alive. As the evening wore on, I decided to lead a toast. I gathered everyone around the tiki bar, raising my glass high. To community, I proclaimed. To joy, laughter, and the beautiful memories we are creating together. And here's to embracing the changes that make us stronger and better. The clinking of glasses rang out, and cheers erupted, merging into a chorus of joy that reverberated against the walls of my property. Bob stood beside me, her posture relaxed as she raised her glass too, almost imperceptibly caught up in the moment. "Here's to new beginnings," she said, the words flowing more freely as if carried by the spirit of camaraderie that filled the air. With each passing moment, I could see more of the rigidness in her demeanor melt away, revealing an unexpected willingness to engage with the community she had once sought to control. As the festivities continued, it became clear that the transformation wasn't just limited to my backyard. A spark had ignited within every neighbor present, an understanding that sometimes moments of rebellion could pave the path for connections. The barriers that had once defined us, HOA rules, differences in lifestyles, and disagreements, began to fade into the background, replaced by laughter and shared experiences. Later that evening, she and I found ourselves seated near the tiki bar, drinks in hand, while the sounds of laughter echoed around us. "You know, I never thought I would find myself in this position," Bob remarked. Her voice softened. "I admit I judged your intentions harshly." I smiled, feeling the warmth of understanding settle between us. Change can be daunting, but it can also lead to such beauty. The joy we share right now is worth any resistance. She nodded, thoughtfully gazing out at the revelry. Perhaps I have been too rigid. There is something to be said for celebrating life and community rather than strictly enforcing rules. As she spoke, I realized how much this evening had shifted not only the perception of my pool but the entire essence of our neighborhood. It wasn't just about constructing a water park. It was about building bonds, forging friendships, and standing up against the forces that sought to divide us. We lingered in the night, under stars that twinkled like the sparks of something new, our conversation flowing freely. Bob began sharing her own stories of her childhood, her former community, and the rules that confined her notion of perfection. I listened as the threads of her narrative intertwined with my own, unraveling the fabric of her strict exterior. "I might just need to rethink my approach," she admitted over a fresh drink. Perhaps we can find a way to blend both our visions of community. And in that moment, it hit me. The fight was not about winning against Bob. It was about finding common ground and nurturing the spirit of collaboration. Together, we could shape a more inclusive neighborhood, a space where joy and understanding flourished. As the night faded into the early hours of morning, stories exchanged continued to cement the newfound bonds forming around us. Perhaps we could create an HOA that didn't stifle creativity, but instead embraced the joyful chaos that a shared vision could bring. Bob and I may have started at opposite ends of the spectrum, but by night's end, an unspoken pact formed between us, binding us through laughter, an appreciation for community spirit, and a promise to nurture this rebirth together. And with that, I couldn't help but think, the true waterpark running through our lives had always been one of connection, and now, together, we were diving in headfirst.